Good day, everyone. I wanted to share some thoughts about the field study that we have coming up for Sapphires. And what I hope I'm doing here is not introducing new thoughts, but collecting what I think I've heard from the team throughout our meetings and specifically meetings focused on the field study, but also on other things that people have said. So what I would like you to do right now as you're watching this is open an email, address it to sapphiresleap@googlegroups.com, which is where your meeting invites come from. And I've got a couple of places for you to record your thoughts and record them as we go on. Send them to the whole group when we're done. So open that email right now. So what we need in Sapphires is occupied houses in which the efficacy of a single intervention can be seen. Some of those houses will have the pack. Some of those houses will have the whole house pressurization. We need to be able to determine the efficacy or effectiveness of a single intervention in the system for 10 houses, each of those interventions. So in your email, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the next 3 slides, which will be what each house must have, what we thought we needed, and what we might not need, and then what the team must have in the situation. And as we go on, share what you think of as additions to or disagreements with the next slides. Okay, so each house must have enough usable events. In our meeting on variability, I identified that as 48 usable events per period. And then we need about 16 usable events before the intervention and then after the intervention to get a baseline. We also need 2 intervention periods because one will be notification and one will be automation. For usable events, the duration is not so short that we would not see an event in the home, and it is not so long that we can't tell when the event ends. And those events of outdoor pollution should be visible indoors if the intervention is not running. We also need willing occupants. We need them to be continuously present during each intervention period. They shouldn't leave, especially during the notification intervention, because then we won't be able to see their response. They also need to be okay with answering a series of surveys. And as we've discovered, that is not everyone. The house has to be correct size. So around 1,600 square feet, less is great. Under 2,000 square feet, if that's all we can get. And they have to be able to be pressurized with the current system, even if that's not the intervention they get, even if the whole house intervention is not the one they receive, they should be able to be pressurized so that they can be comparable to the other houses that are. Things that we thought, or I thought we needed at the beginning of the study, but we don't. We had originally envisioned all the houses being done at the same time and during the same season. We don't need that as long as the time that we test each house has enough events. Each house is going to be compared against its own background and against its own predicted function using the pressure diagnostic. And so we don't have to do all the houses at the same time or even in the same season, but we do want that time to have enough events. We might have thought we needed the houses to be all in the same city. I wanted to see the response of each house to the same event. But from Christian's data, what we see is the same area has different events if you look at 2 different monitoring sites. And so we weren't going to get that anyway. I thought we needed occupants who were representative of the population we were targeting. This number is not going to be representative anyway. We're not going to learn anything about the behavior from from the sample that we have, which is 16 or 20, a very small number, other than how those participants might be situated within a larger sample. So we need occupants probably who will give us feedback. We don't need them to represent a group. They can't represent a group. I was very interested in having buy-in from a single community organization. I really wanted to find an organization that wanted to work on air quality, where we were working together. What we're seeing is a couple of things. First of all, nobody is quickly stepping up to demand indoor air that is clean and protected from wildfire smoke. Maybe it's because they don't know that possibility exists. Maybe it's because they have other priorities. We don't know what that issue is, but those organizations are not beating down our door. We have to convince people to do the study and demonstrate the benefit. It's not available upfront. So I had hoped to do all those homes uh, with access to a single community organization or multiple organizations within a community. I don't think that's going to happen. What the team does need to have, wherever we do the measurements, is the ability to respond quickly to issues that come up until we have confidence in the technical robustness. We might get that confidence partway through the study, but we don't have it right now. And so we need to be in a place where we can respond. We need to have the practice of and methods for examining data every day for the first week, every day. And then maybe after that, every 3 days or every week. But we need to see what's going on. We can't afford to lose sites with such a small number. And then we need to have a contractor in the area, or perhaps one who's willing to travel to install that whole house pressure device. So if you have other ideas on these three items or anything on the previous slides, please take some time to write them into your email now. You can stop the video if you wish. Going on, what does this mean for what a field study would look like if we wrote the proposal now? So I don't think there is a question of where do we get 20 homes. Since the homes don't need to be in the same place at the same time, we get one home, we go do it. It doesn't matter if it's in the same place as a different home. So we can have rolling entry, we can keep an intake database of people who are interested. If we are comfortable with the air cleaner only now, let's start with it. The home can be anywhere. We can cast a wide net. We can go Denver. We can go Fort Collins. We can, if we wanted to, we could go to Southern Arizona. I don't think that the results of efficacy or effectiveness assessment will be different if those homes are co-located or not co-located. And so if we loosen our geographic restrictions, I think we'll be more successful at getting homes. Then we have a screening approach to inclusion. So doing a home for 16 weeks is expensive. Any loss is costly. So let's make sure we're doing homes that are going to work. So we start by using Christian's event analysis to determine what locations we want to do. We saw very small events in mountain towns, and so they may be excluded. So we start by zeroing in, but we don't have to zero into a single location. Then, as Ellison suggested, we do a 3 to 5 day nimble monitoring to screen homes. If they've got too much indoor or not enough outdoor events, then we just do that monitoring and drop them. We give them a little small incentive. Don't be afraid to drop. It's more costly to do a home that isn't going to work. In fact, we might think about, well, could we learn something from that 3 to 5 day monitoring? Maybe it's just throwaway data, but it still saves us money and time. So then if homes have been willing and we drop them, they might become candidates for other projects. We don't know. We would probably have to redo the description of recruitment in IRB. That's probably not prohibitive. So that's the general approach to recruiting homes. And then my thoughts on advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is we know we're still learning. I think we're a little bit afraid to go out because we're still learning. And so let's say our first home is number 401. Well, let's just say that's not officially part of the field study. It's a pilot or a beta test, and we just keep doing homes until we get the procedure down. And during the whole intake, doing and then assessment, we use the experience to refine our go, no go criteria. And then we will say we're ready now, not because we've projected it, but because we've seen our readiness in doing the homes. So then we'll identify, okay, the next home we are ready, but that will come from experience. Another advantage, I think, is that it will shift the momentum of the project. I think there's a lack of confidence, certainly on my part and possibly on other people's too. We don't feel confident in identifying intervention homes or getting out to real houses. We're kind of poised on the precipice of we have all this stuff and we're not really sure how it's going to work. And so we need to see the field study as active and attainable and not mysterious and distant. We need to lower that barrier. And I think that doing one house at a time as we get them will lower the barrier. A disadvantage is I'm not really sure how the support logistics were going to work. We didn't design the experiment and we didn't cost it to have one-off homes. It could be that it's more labor intensive than we put in the proposal. We also didn't know what we would actually encounter when we designed that proposal. We did not prepare for a 4-hour setup time. And so my suspicion is that it is going to be more costly than we budgeted. It was going to be more costly anyway. So, question for you as you're watching this, do you have responses, either positive or negative, to what I've proposed here? Go ahead and write those in your email. So the last slide I have is I started making a little map of places we could consider. I think that some of this will be blocked by the by my talking head. But Fort Collins, Denver, Oregon, revisiting Oregon. We might gain confidence in Fort Collins and Denver. If we don't get 20 houses, maybe we'll go to Oregon. I don't know. I'm open to that now. I'm pretty confident that the first 4 or 5 houses are nearby. But we can start creating a matrix of where we might go, consider the social concerns, start talking to our contacts, and just start taking in houses one at a time and start practicing. So that's my thought. Wrap up your email, send it to the group. If you've written anything that you don't want to share with the entire group, just address it to me, but the entire group is better. Thank you for taking the time.